In October 2025, one of Britain's largest engineering companies collapsed in a matter of days. Not because of a scandal. The scandal was 4 years old. They'd already admitted guilt, paid the fine, hired a new CEO. Given the speeches about turning things around, they did everything right, and it still killed them. This is what the new Petrofac sounded like. After the guilty plea, after the £77 million penalty, after the Serious Fraud Office had already taken scalps, Petrofac operates upon the core principle of ethical business conduct. It is a company I am immensely proud to lead. This wasn't the man who built the corrupt system. This was the man hired to clean it up. And even he couldn't outrun what the previous Petrofac had built, because before the ethics speeches, there was a printer, an invoice, a deal nobody was supposed to see. Toyota Land Cruisers, approved. That invoice helped hide millions of dollars in bribes. Not for weapons, not for drugs, for oil contracts. The company behind it, Petrofac, a British engineering giant, once worth nearly $8 billion, a FTSE 100 flagship, and, we'll come back to this, a company still receiving hundreds of millions in UK government contracts, even while criminal investigators were closing in. Behind the polished London headquarters, another system was running. Middlemen, fake consultancy deals, payments disguised as ordinary business expenses. And the strangest part, even after Petrofac admitted guilt in one of Britain's largest bribery scandals, the company still survived, until the very industry that was supposed to save them finally destroyed them. Because Petrofac didn't die during the corruption scandal, it died trying to become respectable again. And before this video is over, you're going to find yourself asking a question that has nothing to do with Petrofac. How many other companies still look exactly like this right now? To understand Petrofac's collapse, you first have to understand how it became untouchable. In oil and gas, every contractor says the same thing: better engineers, better technology, faster execution. But when contracts are worth billions, the real competition doesn't happen in the engineering department. It happens in hotel lobbies, over dinners nobody talks about, in relationships that never appear in the annual report. And according to prosecutors, Petrofac mastered that game. During the 2000s and 2010s, the company aggressively expanded across the Middle East, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, massive government infrastructure, massive money. And for years, Petrofac kept winning. Their market value approached $8 billion. Ayman Asfari was celebrated as a self-made billionaire, a major Conservative Party donor, a favorite of the British establishment. Investors loved the growth. The City of London loved the name. But underneath that story, thousands of engineers, people who knew nothing about the invoices, nothing about the fixers, were building their careers on a foundation that was already rotting. They just didn't know it yet, because internally, Petrofac had a problem. Winning contracts the proper way was slower, harder, less predictable. So the company turned to consultants. Except these consultants weren't engineers. They were intermediaries, fixers, middlemen paid to make sure the right doors opened and stayed open. And here's the question nobody asked at the time: how was a British-listed company, audited every year, celebrated by the City of London, funding an entire shadow infrastructure of bribery across 3 countries, without anyone stopping it? That question doesn't have a comfortable answer, but it's the question this story is really about. Before we get to the man who broke the machine, there's something you need to know about the UK government. While investigators were building a criminal case against Petrofac, while the SFO was quietly taking statements, the British government kept awarding Petrofac Hundreds of millions in public contracts, taxpayer money, your money, going to a company already under criminal investigation. Why? We'll answer that. But first, meet the man who handed the investigators everything they needed. That man was David Lufkin, Petrofac's former global head of sales, not a rogue employee, not someone on the fringes. Lufkin was one of the people inside the rooms where the deals were made. He knew exactly how the system worked because he'd helped build it. In 2017, the UK Serious Fraud Office came knocking. Most executives in this position follow the same playbook: lawyers, denials, silence. Lufkin did something far more dangerous. He cooperated, and what he handed over wasn't just a confession. It was a list of names that reached the very top of British public life. But here's what makes this more than a corporate crime story. Why did the UK government keep awarding Petrofac hundreds of millions in contracts, even as those names were being handed to investigators? That answer is coming, and it's worse than you think. Lufkin admitted to 14 counts of bribery. He described a culture where corrupt payments weren't treated as extraordinary events. They were treated as standard business operations. The money moved through fake agreements, hidden commissions, and fabricated invoices, including those invoices for Toyota Land Cruisers that never existed. Between 2011 and 2017, Petrofac paid over $80 million in consultancy fees to secure $8.4 billion in contracts. The system didn't look criminal from the outside. It looked corporate. Invoices, approvals, transfers, normal business mechanics, concealing extraordinary corruption. In 2021, Petrofac pleaded guilty to failing to prevent bribery. Penalties totaled roughly £77 million. For most companies, that would have been the end of the story. But Petrofac survived, and that survival may have been the most fatal decision they ever made. After the scandal, Petrofac became toxic in the Middle East. The same governments that once handed them contracts quietly stopped returning calls. But in Britain, something extraordinary happened. Despite an active criminal investigation, despite an SFO case already producing guilty pleas, the UK government kept awarding Petrofac public contracts, hundreds of millions in work, taxpayer money, flowing to a convicted company because Petrofac employed thousands of British workers, because it was a flagship British brand. That lifeline bought time, but it couldn't buy back trust. And with Middle Eastern revenue in freefall, leadership made a decision: reinvention. Petrofac pivoted toward green energy, offshore wind, energy transition infrastructure, European renewable projects. The message to investors was clear: the old Petrofac was dead. This was a clean energy company now. But here's the detail nobody covered at the time. The clean energy market doesn't give second chances. Miss a deadline, blow a budget, lose client confidence once, and the contract is gone. Petrofac was a company that had already destroyed its confidence, now competing in the one market where confidence was the only currency that mattered. Oil and gas had delivered massive margins. Renewables didn't. Green infrastructure was brutally competitive. Thinner margins, tighter budgets, zero tolerance for failure. And Petrofac entered that market, carrying years of reputational damage, mounting legal costs, and a shadow that never fully lifted. Still, the company chased large projects because they needed one big win, one contract capable of stabilizing everything. That contract arrived in 2025, a major offshore wind project tied to Dutch grid operator TenneT, the one deal that was supposed to buy Petrofac another year. Instead, it became their executioner. By 2025, Petrofac still looked operational from the outside. Internally, pressure was building everywhere. Banks were nervous, suppliers were exposed, confidence was gone. Then came October the 27th, 2025. The Tennessee contract was terminated, not delayed. The project was Petrofac's last real lifeline, the cash flow that was supposed to hold the company together. Without it, the financial structure that had held everything in place fell apart within days. The empire that survived a £77 million bribery penalty couldn't survive clean energy. Thousands of jobs instantly under threat. Engineers, North Sea contractors, logistics companies. They were just the people left standing when it all came down. And that is what hidden damage does. The wound doesn't kill you the moment it's inflicted. It kills you when you finally run out of things to hold it together. Petrofac didn't collapse because it forgot how to build. It collapsed because it built two realities. Reality 1, the public company, the investor presentations, the energy transition narrative. A CEO declaring his pride in Petrofac's core principle of ethical business conduct after the penalty had already been paid. Reality 2, the shadow system underneath, the fixers, the hidden commissions, the invoices for vehicles that never existed, and, eventually, Reality 2 poisoned Reality 1. This wasn't just bad management. This was a company trying to outrun the consequences of the very system that made it successful in the first place. The same company, once celebrated as the gold standard of British engineering, became one of Britain's largest corporate bribery cases. The shares collapsed. The holding company entered administration. But the most uncomfortable question this story raises isn't really about Petrofac, because Petrofac is gone. The question is, how many other companies still look successful today only because nobody has opened the invoices yet?